If you have been thinking of moving to Portugal lately, you might have come across the biggest issue of the year, which is the new changes to the Portuguese immigration laws. The Portugal that used to allow free movement, as in immigrants coming into the country as digital nomads, students, remote workers, immigrants, etc., is now shutting its doors. Should I say is now or has already shut its doors? Not entirely. They are being selective about it. And today I'm going to walk you through what has changed. I know I'm late to the tea because this happened a few months ago, but I am here to give you my undiluted and very realistic opinion, as I always do, right? So if you're ready, let's dive into it. So I've been living in Portugal for almost 3 years now, and in this video, I'm going to give you my honest perspective or opinion about this whole changes. Not like the headlines or what social media is portraying, but realistic view of how things are on the ground. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the biggest immigration law changes, how it affects new immigrants, the advantages and disadvantages, and who Portugal is actually good for in 2026. Now, to understand this new rule, let's first dive into why these changes happened in the first place. Over the several years, Portugal has been one of Europe's hottest destinations, mainly due to various reasons, which we all already know. One, the relatively affordable cost of living, safety, good weather, remote work opportunities, and pathway to Europe. I mean, if you are in Portugal and you have the Portugal passport or residency, you can travel to anywhere in Europe. And also the easy residency options. At a point, the system was overwhelmed because people came in tons of people came in because of these opportunities. And the old immigration system here in Portugal, as in the old agency that managed all this immigration, had so much to do. They were overwhelmed by the number of people coming in and all the processes of documentation they had to go through, which actually led them into setting up another agency, which is IMA, to help regulate this. IMA also became overwhelmed because people were trooping in, like I said. So the government thought that the best way they could cut down this backlog is to implement some of these new changes. Whether you agree or you don't agree, I think this is the whole reason behind this new big changes in Portugal immigration. Simply put, the system is overwhelmed, and it is difficult for such a small country like Portugal to have this number of people and to process this whole documentation stuff. So yes, they have a lot of backlog to work with. Aside the whole backlog and the pressure on the agencies in Portugal, the immigration agency in Portugal, the whole place became too expensive to live. The Portugal that people were trooping in because it was relatively affordable is now super expensive. So therefore, it led the citizens of Portugal to start complaining to the government that due to this whole immigration thing, people are so many in the country, hence the demand for housing has skyrocketed, hence the prices of housing. Rent is now super expensive in Portugal. And also, this brought the influx of people brought about pressure on healthcare and public facilities as well. Hence, the government decided that immigration must be controlled and selective. Now, diving into the major changes, the first and biggest one is the longest path to citizenship. I mean, that was Portugal's selling points, if I should say, because before a few years ago, just 2 years ago, if I should say, to become a citizen of Portugal, you should have legally lived in Portugal for a period of 5 years to gain you that citizenship right. But now this biggest change has moved it from 5 years to 10 years for non-EU residents, and from 5 years to 7 years for EU residents and Portuguese speaking countries. Now, this has been the biggest one of all because that was, like I said, the selling point of Portugal, which made it more attractive for other citizens of other countries to move into. Now, that possibility has been stretched. So, now it is longer years, 10 years, 5 more years if you would want to become a citizen of Portugal. The second rule is how job seeker visa is now so tough. Job seeker visa was a visa that you can apply for before to come to Portugal to look for a job. Now that part has been made so tough and selective, which means only people with technical skills are now required to apply for that. So if you don't have any technical skills that would benefit the country, you should probably consider elsewhere because it would be so difficult for you to get that kind of visa. The third one has to do with family reunification. Before, it was quite easier for you to reunite with your family. Example, if you came to Portugal by yourself and left your family in your home country, it was quite easier to bring them to join you in Portugal. But now the requirement and documentation has been made so strict that it is almost impossible for you to do that. Now, for the next one, the old manifestation of interest is scrapped out. Now, what is manifestation of interest? For years, people came to Portugal legally and regularized their stay by applying for this manifestation of interest. For example, you can come to Portugal as a tourist, and whilst you stay, you can apply for this manifestation of interest. Now, that whole process is scrapped out. So now you cannot travel to Portugal as a tourist and decide to regularize your stay by applying for a residency card. That rule no longer exists. Now, talking about the pros and cons of living in Portugal, starting with the pros. After living here for almost 3 years, I could bet on this that number one, Portugal is one of the safest countries to live in Europe. I mean, the crime rate is so low. As a woman, a single woman, you can just walk about and do whatever you like legally. I mean, legally do so many things at odd hours without wondering what is going to happen to you. That is how safe Portugal is. It is safe for everybody, regardless your race. And that I love so much about Portugal. Now, the second thing, obviously, is the weather. The weather is so amazingly beautiful. As I'm talking to you or recording this video right now, we are in summer, and oh my God, go to the beaches of Portugal right now. Everywhere is full because the heat is heating. It is almost frying everybody. And when it gets to winter, winter is a weather that most people in foreign land struggle with, but in Portugal, it is easy to deal with. The weather is not too cold or unbearably cold. It is okay for you. So that is one of the things I personally love about Portugal. And not just me, so many people love the weather of Portugal. The next thing I like about living in Portugal, no, I love about living in Portugal, is the work-life balance. Portugal generally is a country that moves at a slow pace. So if you're coming from a country that is rushed, things are always rushed, Portugal will calm you down. It is so refreshing because they prioritize family life, they prioritize weekends, they prioritize generally enjoying life. So things actually move on a slower pace. So if you like to enjoy life and have a good quality of life, Portugal would be for you. The next amazing thing I like about Portugal is the fact that it gives you access to all the Schengen area, meaning you can travel to any part of Europe as and when you want. And the tickets are so affordable. If you have been following my channel or my shorts lately, you can see that I am always somewhere else. I'm always having fun, not because I have the means to, but because it is relatively affordable to travel around and visit all the European countries. So these are the things that I love, love, love about living in Portugal, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. Now, let's get to the cons. Let's be realistic here. Portugal is not perfect. It is very far from perfect, right? So it obviously has some cons. The first con is the cost of housing. Lately, rent has been super, super, super expensive in Portugal, making living in Portugal quite expensive as well. Rent has increased significantly over the past few years, and not just the rent, even finding accommodation is a huge struggle. Rent high, even finding it is also high, which makes life in Portugal sometimes very, very, very frustrating. Now, the second huge problem in Portugal has to do with the salaries or the wages in Portugal. Portugal's salaries remains relatively low compared to many other European countries. So if you're relying entirely on the wages you're earning in Portugal and versus renting a house and other things you have to pay for, other bills that comes with living in Portugal, it doesn't tally, because the wages are down here and the rents are down here, which makes life very, very stressful, if I should say, in living in Portugal. But if you're coming from somewhere with a remote job that pays well, or you have other businesses or two, three jobs that can finance your life in Portugal, then it would be amazing. But on the general, most immigrants work for a minimum wage. Hence, the minimum wage and the cost of living, it is very, very difficult to live in Portugal. That is one thing that is a huge problem a lot of people are dealing with. The next con has to do with bureaucracy. If you've ever planned or done any research about Portugal, you would know that bureaucracy is one of the biggest problems in Portugal. I mean, I'll give you a typical example. I've been trying to renew my residence card for the past 7 months, and I'm still in the process for the past 7 months. So you can imagine how the bureaucratic system in Portugal is so, so slow. Even after the whole reform from SEF to IMA, the backlog still is in place that makes the bureaucratic system so long, so frustrating, so time consuming. And if you're coming from a country that things moves faster, you might find this very, very, very frustrating and uncomfortable. The last one has to do with the language. I mean, we all know in Portugal it is Portuguese, not forgetting the fact that most of the citizens speak English. But as an immigrant in somebody else's country, it is very important to learn their language. It helps for you to integrate well into that country, and it also shows respect to the new country and the community you are in. So, language is also another problem because the language itself is so. The last thing I want to talk about is who should move to Portugal in 2026. Now, that is as important as everything that I've spoken about. If you're considering of moving to Portugal in 2026, coming from someone that has lived here for almost 3 years, what I genuinely think is for you to check this list of things I'm going to say. If you fall into any of them, then yes, it's a green light. But if not, then I would say probably rethink. One is if you have a remote job. If you have a remote job that earns better than the minimum wage, green light. If you have a stable income, we know most of the jobs in Portugal, sometimes the jobs that are available for immigrants are seasonal jobs, which is a little not too good. So, if you have a stable income from where you're coming from, or if you're able to find a stable income here in Portugal that pays well, that is also a green light. Now, also, if you love a slower pace of life, that is also amazing for you because, like I said, Portugal is not the fast kind of country. It is a slow pace of life. So if you enjoy that kind of life, then it is a green light. Also, if you want access to Europe, the entire Europe, to be able to travel the entire Europe, then Portugal can be your choice. And also, if you don't mind learning the Portuguese language, because it is important and it would do you a whole lot of good if you are able to learn the language. So, if you can learn the language faster as well, it is a green light. And the last one is if you have time, because the process has been elongated. So if you have time and you don't mind waiting for years and years for whatever it is or whatever purpose you came here for, then it is a green light for you. So this is all I have to say.